This conference will now be recorded.
Well, very good morning. Good morning. So, I think we are going through Route 53, S3 and Route 53, right? So S3 bucket. So bucket is a collection of objects. So which we upload some data objects into the bucket. But and we have seen how do you provide permissions to the bucket or objects in the bucket, and also an ACL. So what's the difference between permissions versus ACL?
Permissions is actually particularly user permission given permission right and given.
So permissions are for the objects or the bucket can be accessible globally, okay, and for other users, global users, you can say. And whereas ACL is, this is a list, access control list, where we can add other AWS accounts, right? So whenever we just want to other AWS accounts, we just add the canonical ID into the ACL list, and then that particular user will be able to access the bucket. Okay, that's what is so ACL. And then we have seen the versioning concept, so which is a very simple concept. And later, what else? Yeah, static website hosting. If you want to host your website through S3 bucket, and the permissions the properties, the properties must be changed to static website hosting. But anyway, let's look into this today. So we take about an example. And so first I'm going to upload a simple web page, okay, web page or website, whatever. So upload it into S3 bucket. And after that, let's see how that can be hosted through Route 53. So what is Route 53 is for? Route 53 is an hosted service, right? Hosting service. This is used to create the DNS names, domain names. Also, we can host the websites. So from S3. Okay. But that is one purpose of Route 53, and there are other various purposes why we use Route 53. So we'll talk about that. But let's understand this example: how we can host an application if my website or application is available in S3 buckets. How we can host it? Okay, let's talk about those steps. So log into the account first. I have done some temporary fix to my laptop, so hopefully this should work. Temporary, this is only temporary fix. Let's see. Hopefully there won't be any issues today. So going to Route 53, S3 first. So now let's try it. Host and first let's create an S3 bucket. So and then we can host that through Route 53. Now how we create an S3 bucket? So just like give some name, but I'm going to give some different name to S3 buckets. So why that naming convention, something like this? We understand it when we go to Route 53, you'd be able to understand it. But I'm going to give my name to the S3 bucket in some different format. So what is that format? I just say, so app dot, something like app dot, let's say some test app do I have that bucket? Not sure. Let's see. So this is my bucket name, app.testapp.com. That's my bucket name. Why that is been given something like this? Because this bucket name should match with the DNS name which you're going to create. Okay, so you understand it anyway. Now, so that's my bucket name, and then so bucket objects policy. I just want to unblock them and also acknowledge it. So why unblocking it? So this is a website, static website. So what I want my bucket objects must be visible to the public users. That's what is a website, right? All the web pages must be visible to the public users. So I want to unblock the permission so that, so after the bucket is created, I'm going to add some bucket policies. In that bucket policy, the policy would be public accessible policy. Okay. But if you want to make changes to the public policies, we need to unblock them first. If these are checked, actually, the box is checked. Can we change the public policies? No. Can we change the bucket policies? No. That's why I'm unblocking it. And then so confirm that. And if you like to enable the versioning, enable the versioning. Okay. And then so that's okay. Just leave that and create a bucket. So this is my bucket name. So this is my bucket name, app.testapp.com. Okay, that's my bucket name. But so objects can be public. Okay, objects are public, but let's make it like public accessible now. So go to the bucket, but before that, so I want to upload some files into my bucket and add files. I'm going to add some web page, whatever, some web page, okay, a simple web page, and then just upload it. It's not uploading. Upload it. No, loading still. All right. File timeout. Let's again do it. Upload it. Yeah, upload it. So just close it. So let's make it go to permissions. I want to give some public access. So how do we do that? Create policy. And then you can go with policy generator. And so we are creating a policy on S3 bucket. So select the S3 bucket policy and then start. That means all objects, and then go with actions. So let's go with get object policy. Get object, and then ARN name. So what was the ARN name? That's ARN name. And then make sure all the objects are publicly accessible. That's the ARN name. Okay. Add a statement and generate policy. That's the policy. Copy the policy. And there we just provide the policy and just say save changes. Now that is public. So for the confirmation, I want to check my bucket objects in the bucket. So this is the object, right? That's an object. And so check the URL. Something. I got something. Okay. So the page can be accessible now, but how I can provide and how I can host this so particular application which is available in S3 bucket. I want to host it through Route 53. Right. So as of now, look at this URL. So this is the URL for the object. But when you go to an application, so you have a URL for the whole application. So that means DNS name. How do I create that DNS name now? So let's go to Route 53 and we create a DNS to Route 53 plus we're going to host it as well. Okay, well, moving on to Route 53. Finish. So on the dashboard, this is your dashboard, and you can see that first, register for a domain. So you want to host it. If you want to host it first, make sure register for a domain name first. Okay, and register domain. And what was the bucket name? So look at the bucket name, app.testapp.com. Okay, that's a bucket name. So the domain which I'm going to create is testapp.com. That's my domain. Okay, so just select it and check for the availability. Anyway, that won't be available. If that is available, you just add it to the cart and then pay for the domain, and then that domain will be registered for you for the next 1 year. Okay. So let's assume that now I have bought the domain. So once you get the domain, so what do you do next? So there we go with hosted zones. So what was the domain name? The domain name was so testapp.com was a domain. Okay, that's my domain. And then what was the bucket name again? App.testapp.com. That's a bucket name. Then after that particular domain is registered for you, then you go with create a hosted zone. Okay, 1 second. Just a second. I don't like this previous view one. Go back to. So this new view, the earlier view was much better. I'm just so hosted zones. The view is not so comfort for me. So, but let's see. Okay, nothing I can do. Okay, fine, not an issue. Now, what was the domain name? Testapp.com. Okay, that's a domain. And then, so description, and this is an public hosted zone. Okay, so make it as a public, then that hosted zone, so it can be accessible publicly. Okay, so if you make it private, and that can be accessible only within the networks. There is a concept called VPCs. Okay, we talk about that anyway. So if you make your domain as in private, that domain can be accessed within the network, not outside of the network. But the purpose, why I'm creating my website is this can be accessible globally. That means public access. Let's make it public, and then create a hosted zone. So firstly, what I have done, I have registered for that first. Once that is registered, now you create a hosted zone here. Okay, hosted zone is created. That's my hosted zone, testapp.com. So what exactly these values route traffic to? So if you're able to see these values like .org, .net, .com, .co.uk, so then users from these domains like co.uk or .org, even the users from those kind of domains, so can access your application. Okay, well, now select your domain first. Then I create a record set. So what is a record set? Create a record means I'm going to map my S3 bucket to this domain. That is what is record set. So where is your application is on S3 bucket, right? Now, so my domain is on DNS, which is your Route 53. How the DNS can be attached to S3 bucket? That is what is a record set. Okay, that's an important question. What is a record set? What do you mean by creating a record set? So you have application on S3 and then DNS on Route 53. You link these two. That is what is creating a record set. But so well, these settings are something different. 1 second. So this is a new view. I'm just looking into this. Well, value, seconds, routing. Okay, that should be okay. Yeah, somewhat different, but that should be okay. Well, and then so record name. So what is the record name? The record name has to be same as your bucket name. So what was the bucket name? app.testapp.com, right? So let's give that record name, right? So what is my domain is testapp.com, but my bucket name was app.testapp.com. So this name, the whole name. Now look at the whole name now. So is it same as my bucket name? So they should match. So that is the reason I have named my bucket as something like app.testapp.com. If the DNS, the record set name plus S3 bucket name, if they don't get match, then you won't be able to create an DNS. Remember this. But how do I know that? Will I be able to get that bucket in the listed? So where is that list? Well, just a second. This is something different. 1 second. Elias, where is that Elias thing? This is different. Just a second. The view, that's what I said. I'm not comfortable with this view. Is it on? Just a second. Let me do it again. For me, it's a new view actually. So create a record set. App. So there should be an option over here actually. So what I did, I just clicked on no. I won't be able to get that view again. Now, I'm just looking for this. 1 second. One second, there it is. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. Yeah, they have put it at like somewhere in the top. I can't even see that. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Elias. Routing. Traffic. Go with that A record. Choose an endpoint. Oh, this is something different. Okay, they have changed a lot of things over here. Just a second. They did not have these kind of options before. Just a second. So where is it? Just okay, no issues. Okay, well, got it. Yeah. So now this is, let me explain this. So record name app.testapp.com, and then So there is something called record type. This is a record name and then record type. So these are the record types. So you have different record types, and so the first record type we call it A type. That's A type. A type means you'll be creating your DNS with IPv4 configurations. Okay, and if you want to go with IPv6 address type, you can go with AA. So there are different types. Okay, but we don't use all of them. But these are the mostly used ones: IPv4, IPv6 format. Go with IPv4, and then I select that alias, enable that alias. So then there you go with. So you are creating an S3 bucket, right? Where is your application is S3 website endpoint. Select that. And once you select it, it's also asking us to select the region. This option was not there previously. They have so come up with some new option, which is availability zone, sorry, region. And here you select the bucket. But I don't see that bucket, right? So what was the bucket name? app.stapp.com. That bucket is not appearing in the S3 endpoints. So why it is so? Anyone? Because bucket is there's something else. We discussed that yesterday. In the bucket properties, you change something else. We are under properties, static website hosting. Okay. You scroll down, we are already on the bucket. So that's a bucket. So go to bucket. Okay. And properties. And scroll down. Static website hosting. So currently this is disabled. Let's enable it. Enable. And then now this can be hosted as a static website. Okay. And then give some index name, home page names, whatever home page names you have application. So if you have any error pages, give some error pages, and then save the changes. This has to, let me again try this. Alias enable, disable enable, and then select that S3 website hosting. Choose a region. There is my test app, app.testapp.com bucket. But now I can select that bucket. Now create a record. So finally, what is the DNS of my application? That's a domain name. That's a final domain. Now, whenever users enter this domain in the browsers, your application will be loaded through Route 53. So why Route 53? Because Route 53 has my DNS, right? And that DNS has an endpoint created. What is the endpoint? Endpoint means where is your application is uploaded to. So where is that? That's in S3 buckets, right? So that is what I have selected my. So endpoint as in so S3 bucket. Okay. So let me do it again if you are confused. So how do you do that? So first select that DNS you have registered already. This is a DNS I have registered, assume that. And then for that select it and create a record set. And then so give the bucket name app.testapp.com and then select the alias and then choose an endpoint. You see that? So we have different endpoints. We'll come back to that point, but select the S3 and then in which region? That's in Mumbai region. I don't know why they have put this region concept. I don't know. So there must be some reason. So it was not there before. And then enter S3 endpoint. That's your bucket. Okay. So they should have, don't know what is the reason they have introduced this. Because whenever you say you have DNS. DNS is already like a global. Why they have come up with this? So, it's so static, but see, whatever is static, but DNS is a global, right? Domain is a global. Why they have come up with this?
Direct traffic to direct user region.
That does not make any sense. But, so what is that? So I think error was I did not see that actually. So the reason is we already have that same, right? That could be a reason. We already have the same name, so we cannot create another one. So if you want, you can delete the existing one, create a new one. But anyway, this is how you do it. Now these are what we call endpoints. S3 endpoints. Endpoints means where is your S3 bucket. So what is the bucket name? Select that bucket name over here. That's a bucket. So nothing but we can create these endpoints or DNS. Apart from S3, you see some other services, right? So what is that? Elastic Beanstalk. So last session, so I've shown you an example. So why we use Elastic Beanstalk? Elastic Beanstalk is a platform ready application, platform ready to use. Now, so for example, take an example. On that Elastic Beanstalk environment, I have deployed an application. So let's say this application, some website application I have deployed. So once it is deployed, for that application, I want to create an DNS. Where is your application is? On Elastic Beanstalk. I want to create a DNS. Then you select your environment. So what is my DNS is? This is my DNS app.testapp.com. Select your Beanstalk environment and then region. Now, you remember this? This is what we have created in our last session. Then I can create my DNS. Right. We can create the DNS for even other purposes. But since we don't know these ones, I just leave them. You can do it for even for VPCs and network load balancers. So there are various purposes. So this is the question actually. So what is the purpose of Route 53? The Route 53 is a DNS service. It's a domain name service. So which is used to create domain names, or you can say endpoints. You can say domain names or endpoints for different services. So what are the services? Like VPCs and then Elastic Beanstalk and also your S3. So it's not only for S3. So we have different other applications, so different other purposes using which you can create endpoints or domain names for the applications. Okay, so well, this is how you. And other thing is, there was a question. Forgot that question actually. That's an important question. Yeah. Now this is my application, right? Oh, sorry, website. I'm sorry. That's my website. Where was that? Hosted zone. That's my hosted zone. Yeah. So this is my application. Now think about the traffic, the usage. So somehow my application has become so more popular and users have started using my application. And so the traffic is going beyond my expectations. That means usage of my application, number of users. Then again, the same things. What is that? Scalability issues, availability issues, performance issues, right? So how are you going to manage those things for Route 53? No, we don't worry about that. It's all taken care by AWS again. So if you want to take care of scalability, that means high availability, auto scaling, load balancing, if you want to do all those things, you must have your instances, EC2 instances. But can you see the instances? I simply uploaded my application on S3 and hosted through Route 53. Right? So that is another question. Sorry. Routing policies. Sorry, what was that?
Routing policies.
What routing policies?
Routing policies Control the traffic.
That is control the traffic. That means this is not like auto scaling. Okay, so you cannot set up the auto scale conditions there. That's only for routing purpose. Okay, you can route it, but that cannot be, so what we call, it's not for auto scaling concept. So scaling cannot be done, because if you want to do the scaling concept, first of all you should have instances. There is no scaling concept, but anyway, that's all inbuilt, right? So that is one purpose. So we'll come back to this Route 53 again in the future. So we talk about this also, Route 53, and how do you create Route 53 for VPCs, and then elastic beam stack. So let me just go with yesterday. So when we were adding ACL, access control list, so there was something called add another AWS account. Remember that? So canonical ID. But who is that another AWS account? So let's say the bucket is created on my account. Okay, and you have a different AWS account. So, but you are not from my organization, you're not from my project. Then why do I provide my packet access to you? I don't do it, right? Then who is that user? Who is that AWS account? So here we talk about IAM users or IAM accounts. So when you say that IAM user, so IAM account, that is nothing but this is like your team. Identity access management, IAM means. Now, so firstly, let me give you a simple example which you understand easily. So I have a team actually, that's my admin team, the ops team, whatever, I have some team. Now, in that team, so myself, I'm the owner. What do you mean by owner? Let's say I'm the lead, or else an application owner. So I'm the lead. So since I'm the lead, so this is my account. I have full access to my account. What do you mean by full access? I can work with any service. I can create buckets. I can create EC2 instances. I can create volumes. I can delete them. I can do anything on my account because I have the owner access. Okay, so I'm the lead. Then, so under me, I have some subordinates. So I have my team. So I have a senior user. I have a junior user. So this is my team. Okay. So now the question is, if I want senior user has to manage EC2. So the senior user will be able to manage all the services, all particular actions related to EC2. So what does it mean? That senior user, whenever he logs into this account, then he can see the instances I have created. So who has created instances? I have created my instances, but I'm lead. But once instances are created, I want senior user wants to manage my instances. So my responsibility as an owner, as a lead, is create the instances, and the other user, senior user, will be able to manage the instances. That means whenever some volumes are needs to be attached, he is going to attach the volumes, and he wants to create some AMIs or snapshots. He will be able to do all those things. He is going to manage it. But he wants to create instances. He wants to delete instances. Now I won't give him that access. Clear? So now how is that possible? Using IAM, Identity Access Management. And so I have other user, junior user. This user, I want him just to manage only S3 buckets. So by mistake, he wants to access EC2. Now he won't be able to even see the instances of my EC2. His responsibility, his job is restricted to that service only. So whereas senior user, he wants to access S3 buckets. He can access them, but he cannot modify them. He cannot delete them, but he can see my bucket. That means for senior user, I'm going to give him some EC2 access and plus S3 read access. But whereas EC2, I would provide him S3 EC2 full access. So what do you mean by EC2 full access? Even senior user will be able to create the instances. Let him create. Full access means any actions. So what do you mean by actions? He can create instances, delete instances, volumes, AMIs, everything. Okay. But that senior user wants to have access to S3. Yeah, he can do it, but only he can see the buckets. But whereas junior user has S3 full access, that's it, nothing else. Apart from S3, so he won't be able to access rest of the services. That's not possible. So we provide this kind of access to the users. But what we call those users? Are there different other user accounts, different AWS accounts they have? See, if they have different AWS accounts, how they'll be able to see? So my account instances. Am I clear? So usually your account is different, my account is different. So are you able to see the things which I have done on my account? Are you able to see them? No, because we both are different accounts. But here, so same account is shared by the multiple users. Same account, but with some limitations, with some restrictions. So that is what we call these users. We call them IAM users, Identity Access Management. So that is what we're going to try now, how to create these IAM users and how we control their permissions. Okay. So this is under, this comes under security. How do you provide securities to AWS account using IAM? So IAM, that's a service name. So this is IAM dashboard, and then you have users. You create IAM users. IAM users needs to be created first. We create the users. Okay, and then so for those users, so what we assign? We assign the policies. So users are assigned with some policies, and there are about 700 policies. These are all predefined policies. So these policies are predefined by the AWS. Okay, so we call them policies. So policies are attached to the users. So when you say policies, means nothing but permissions, nothing else. Yes. And then, so we also have live policies. We can see the roles. So what are the roles? Roles are assigned to the entities. Or you can say permissions, grant permissions to the entities. So what is entity? So take an example. Let's take an EC2 instance. So this EC2 instance I have created for development team. Okay, and this development team, so they are doing some coding on this instance. They design some applications. Well, but in the meanwhile, they want to access some of the data which is available on S3, or else the database is available on RDS. What is RDS? RDS is used to create databases, some Oracle databases, MySQL databases. Well, this development team, he wants to access some data on other service. What is the service is? Let's say some RDS or S3, whatever. Okay. Or let's take your example. So you are logged into EC2 instance. Once you log into EC2 instance, you want to read some data from the database, from the EC2 instance. Or else you want to read some data from S3 buckets. Now, so in this case, that's not possible to read the data from one entity to another entity. So in this example, what is my entity? EC2 instance. I want to access the data from another entity like RDS or S3. By default, so cross entity is not permitted in AWS. So one entity access to another entity access is not permitted. But if you want to do this, we need to create some roles, assign those roles to the entities. That means I'm going to create a role for this EC2 instance saying that, so you can do read RDS. And that role I will be assigning to the EC2 entity. Then, so those who have logged into that EC2 instance will be able to access the data. Okay, so this is how the access is given for entities. We call them roles. Okay, but now, so that's the difference between policies versus roles. This is, say, if there are any questions in IAM, so this is the first question. So you won't be having too many questions towards IAM. So one question is policies versus roles. That's one question. And other question is hardly two questions, not more than that. Other question is inline policies. So what is an inline policy? So back to the policies. So these are the policies, right? So they have around 700 policies, approximately 690 something, 700. So all these policies are inbuilt policies. That means AWS has defined these policies already. See that? AWS managed policies. They have created already policies for us. Okay. So then, but I'm looking for a policy, something like, so for some user, there is IAM user. When I say user means IAM user. For this user, I want to provide some access. What access? EC2 full access. Is this policy is available? Let's check that. EC2 full access. So once this policy is assigned to the user, then that user one will be able to do anything with EC2. Anything means create the instances, delete the instances, stop and start, volumes, and anything. Okay. But I don't want that user to delete volumes, let's say. Right. So I want to, user will be able to manage everything on of the EC2 except delete volumes. Or else take another example, EC2 full access. Minus means I don't allow the user, saying that something like delete AMIs, I mean images. I think you know what is images, right? I don't want the users to delete images or delete snapshots. So if these volumes, if the images or snapshots are deleted, there is no way you can restore the instances, right? Because those are backups. But in these policies, there is no policy with this kind of permissions. So I have EC2, but so there is no policy defined here. So saying with my requirements, that's not there. Then what do you do?
Create our own
We
policy.
create the policies. We create customized policies. That is what is inline policy. Okay. So how do you create them? We'll talk about it. But so this is the third question. So second question. So first is policies versus roles. That's the first question. And second question would be policies versus inline policies. That's it. Only two questions hardly. There won't be too many questions regarding this. But so if you work as an admin, then you must know all these things in detail. So practical purpose, so all these things are really required. If you do a small mistake, that might affect your other IAM users. Okay, so you should be careful. Anyway, let's talk about all these ones. So you will be having a question on this IAM. Like, did you have any experience working towards IAM services, security IAM services, or any security related services? That's one question. If so, do you have any experience creating inline policies? Can you explain some of the inline policies you have created? And then, what is policies versus roles? Hardly 2 to 3 questions. Hardly, barely. So you won't be having more than that. Anyway, but let's talk about first how to create IAM users. Right. Click on the users, then you add a user, and then the username. So give some username. You can give any username, something like user1. User1 is already exist. Okay, fine. I think the user is already exist. It's already there. I'll just delete the user. Okay, let it be. I think the person might be using that user. I'm not sure. So let's create our own user. I would go with, let's say, create some users like this. That's my username, capital 1, and then you have access type. Programmatic access, console access. What's the difference between these two? Programmatic access. So AWS also has, so what kind of access this is? This is your console access, right? We log into the console, then we perform, so our particular services, we work with the services. Apart from this, AWS also has CLI, command line. Right? So we also set up the command line, but not in here. We set up the command line in Terraform. I'll explain that how you set up this command line in Terraform at the time of Terraform, but not now. But AWS also has that command line interface, CLI. And then, so through Terraform, I'm going to manage my AWS. At that time, I need that command line. So that is what is one of the examples. So where we need programmatic access. If you want to access your AWS through the command line, you must have that user. I mean, the capital 1 user has to have programmatic access given. Okay. Exactly, kind of development also. So not only, I mean, I have given an example, in our case, but so you can also something like this. For example, this example. If there is a developer, he wants to access that, so then that is also an programmatic access. Okay, well, anyway, so even for development purpose, that's what I said. Then the console access. Now this is for administration purpose, like what we have been doing so far. So log into the console and do the things through the admin console. This is what is admin console, what we have been working so far. Okay. So if they want a user, if you want that capital 1 user, log into the console, then give console access. Next. So password, you want auto-generated password or custom password, go with some custom password. So what is a password? So go with capital 1. That should be okay. Yeah. And then, yeah, better I remember the password. Okay. But let's go with next. And this is required password reset. Whenever this capital 1 user log into the console for the first time, I want user has to reset the password. Okay. So you can reset it. That's anyway, that is not recommended because so myself is administrator. Okay. So if I'm an administrator, I don't allow my IAM users to reset their password. I don't allow them. But if you want, you can do it. Okay, go with it. Next. And then these are the permissions. So this is like, what is a group? In usual words, what's a group? The set of users, right? You want to add these users to a group, you can do it. What is the purpose of a group?
Assigning common access.
Share the.
Yes. Instead of assigning the permissions user by user, you can add permissions, you can do the changes to the whole group, and all the members of the group will be applied with the same permissions. But anyway, we talk about the users later. That's very simple concept. And the second option is copy permissions from existing users. You have some permissions assigned to some user one, and you want to copy all the permissions of that user to the new user. You can go with copy permissions, or else you can go with attach existing policies. Okay, it's about 653 permissions they have. It's 653, yeah. And then these are all the permissions defined by the AWS. So I'm not doing anything, just skip it for the time being, skip them all. And look into all these access. So permissions boundary, that permissions are not set anyway. Then create a user. So what is that? This is an access key. So where we use access key IDs and secret key IDs, where we use them? We use these access key IDs, secret key IDs for CLI purpose. So not for the console purpose. Okay. So now, so it's too early to discuss all of them, but so the purpose is whenever you want to log into your AWS through the CLI. So in this example, developer example, so we provide that user these ones. What are they? Access keys and then also secret keys. Well, so we also use this secret keys, access keys even for repository purpose. We talk about them in the future, not now. But so that's just an example. Close it. Now, so who is the user? Is the user one. Now this user wants to log in through the console for administration purpose. How is going to log in? So go to dashboard, and that is the URL. So if this user is going to use that aws.amazon.com, let me show you both anyway. So what I'm going to do, I just open another incognito window. Why incognito window? Because if you do it from the same window, I just need to log out and log in every time. So in order to avoid that, so go with this. So I have two windows open. The black screen you see, this is your IAM user window. Anyway, so how do you log into AWS? aws.amazon.com. Then just create account. We are not creating account. We're going to log in. So sign into existing AWS account. Do I need to create an account? No. Account was already created. So I have created that account. But so what is my username was? My username was capital 1, right? That's a username. So what kind of user that is? Is IAM user. Now this is how you select the IAM user now. So if you want to log into your account as the owner, then you go with root user. So since I'm IAM user, and what is your account ID? So dashboard, yes, there is the account ID, or you can copy that account ID also say that's account ID and enter the account ID. So in here, so enter the account ID, let's copy that. Sorry. Then you enter the IAM username, IAM user password. Okay, or else we can copy the URL. whole URL. See, this is nothing but same. You see that it's the same URL. Let's just copy that again. Again, the same page, but nothing but the same page. But so just copy that ID again. But that ID should be popped up. Why it is not popped up? Anyway, so what was the username? Capital 1, and that username, select the date 1. Sorry. Now, so this is for reset password. So why reset password? You get back that user. Select the user. And for this user, there is a policy attached already. What was that policy? IAM user change password. Why this policy is attached? Say, while I was creating a user, I have just checked that box, reset the password. So since I have checked that box, so this policy is already attached. So I have not attached that manually, it's there by default. Now, so the old password, so reset the password. That's why I don't give these permissions to the users. Confirm password. And then, so going with now. So I'm a user, but what is the account is? That's the account, right? Now, change the region. So where is the region? Mumbai region. Okay, that is changed. Now check with the services. EC2, right? Let's go with EC2. What was the issue? The issue was, where do I see that? Let's go with that instances. Now here you can see that the service access design. Yeah, one second. So I just want to show you that. So you can see that message over here. Anyway, okay, I think they're not displaying the message. They're displaying it on the dashboard itself, I guess. Yeah, probably that's. They used to give some error message here saying that you don't have permissions to access it. So that is been changed. Now it is they're displaying the message over here itself, which is an application interface error. That means you cannot access any instances. Yes. So yes. So why I cannot access the instances as in capital 1 user? That user does not have any policies attached, any permissions attached. So let's add some permissions to this user. Attach policies, existing policies. I'm going to make this user as an administrator. So what is an administrator? He's nothing but an owner, but again, he's not a owner. So he has some, so he'll be acting owner, you can say. So sometimes what might happen is, so there you might come across 2 to 3 admin users always, because it's not possible to manage all the admin activities as in one user. In that case, so I'm going to create multiple admin users. Now myself is admin user. Okay, myself admin user. Same way, I'm going to make capital 1 user also admin user. So why do we do that? So that works in cases of you have multiple projects. So for project 1, I'm going to make capital 1 user as admin. For project 2, I'm going to make capital 2 as an admin. Then they'll be managing their projects with their credentials. Okay, but Anyway, so let's make that user as an admin user, administrator access. Now he's an acting administrator. Now back to the user. I'm a user. Refresh. Just go with EC2 dashboard. Now I can see all of them. So we used to have some API errors, right? Now we don't see those errors. We can access the instances. Now I can access the instances. I can stop them, I can start them, I can do anything. So even I can access any other services. Not only EC2, I can go with S3. I can access any other services. So, but let's create some limited access users. Okay, let's create limited access users. So this capital 1 user is an acting administrator, but I want to create limited users, limited access users. So how we do that now? Back to users first and create a user. Now I'm creating capital 2 plus capital 3. I'm creating multiple users same time. Then access, whatever the access you want to give them, give some access. And I go with custom password. And then I don't want the users to reset the password. Uncheck that. So click on next, next, create users. Users has no permissions. Just close it. And we have capital 2 user. And also capital 3 users have no permissions. So if I log in with these users, capital 2 and capital 3, so will I be able to see any services, or will I be able to access any resources? No. So they have no permissions. Now, sign out. Sign out. Log back in. And the account ID. So what is the account ID? Let's take the account ID. I am user, capital 2, and user password. Then try with S3. Here you can see the permission denied issue. You don't have permissions. Okay, well, anyway. So try with EC2, it's the same thing. But for this user, I want to make him EC2 full access user. What is EC2 full access means? So you can create instances, delete instances, manage the status. Also, see if user has EC2 full access, will he be able to manage the permissions? Sorry, volumes. Yes. Yes. EBS. Yes. So EBS is an integrated with EC2. Then how about CloudWatch alarms? Can I, if user has EC2 full access, will I be able to create CloudWatch alarms?
Yes.
True.
Actually, it's another service.
It's another service. Yeah. So I'll explain. Just a second. First, let's assign permissions for this user. Capital 2. Add a permission. And what was that? EC2 full access. Okay. So back to the capital 2 IAM user. Okay. Now refresh. But that's still loading. Let them load it. That's okay. So volumes. So they're loading. That's the reason we're getting these errors. So they'll take some time to load. That's okay. Anyway, so instances. So just try some instances. Go with that. What instance? Go with that instance. Or else you can take some other instance. Now, just take an instance, RHEL 8 instance. And can I manage the status? So I can manage the status. I can do it. Even if you go with the volumes, I can create a volume, just volume type, and then the size, and then availability zone, and then also the name. Let's say volume 1 for test. Okay. So, sorry, that's name. Sorry, name is equals to create volume. Now that's a volume. Let's refresh. Okay, that's a volume. I can create a volume also. I can delete it. So I can do it. Now, but what if I want to create CloudWatch alarms? Let's see. EC2 dashboard instance. That's instance. And for this instance, we create an CloudWatch alarm. So create a new alarm, and then sorry. So what is that? So what is the service? SNS. That's enabled, right? That's enabled. But can I see any topics? So do you have any topics? Let me see first. If you have any topics. But okay, I think I should back to the admin user. Okay, because if I'm in capital 2 user, so I don't have access to SNS, right? So can I see SNS as in capital 2 user? What? That user has only access to EC2 full. So it's not possible to retrieve that SNS topic. So I cannot do it. But I want to check these. Do we have SNS topics? There are 2 topics. Right? So we have 2 topics. Now back to the IAM user. So am I able to see the topics, SNS topics? I'm able to see the topics as in capital 2 user. No. Why? SN access is not given. Okay. And okay, let's uncheck it. Still, can I create alarm? That means I don't want to notify any users. Okay. So I don't want to notify any users, but still, can I create alarm? What is that? Alarm actions. Can I take some actions? Yes, I can stop the instance and set up some average CPU utilization more than 75 something, set the value. Sorry. So create alarm. I'm able to create alarms. So is it a same service or different service? And was that I was able to create an CloudWatch alarm, right? Is CloudWatch alarms a different service or other third parties? I mean, other service.
Another thing is,
See the CloudWatch. It's a service, right? It's a service. Now, but why I was able to create that alarm?
Action related to EC2 permission.
EC2 full permission.
So you can do any action on that. You can take any action on the instance.
Yes, almost correct. So we are creating alarm, right? So where are we creating alarms? For EC2 instances. For example, I want to create an alarm for some database, let's say. Can I create alarm? No. Because you will be creating alarms for different other services. So this was not like this actually in the past, like about an year ago. So whenever you want to create alarm, so we used to assign a different permission actually. Okay, I just explain the permission, but this is recently changed. So that's a good option. Okay. So you can still create CloudWatch alarms even though you have EC2 full access, but you can create only on EC2, not on any other CloudWatch. Now you can try this. What you can do? So go with CloudWatch alarm. So try with CloudWatch alarm, and here you create a CloudWatch alarm for the purpose of, let's say, Beanstack. Okay, you try with the Beanstack. Okay, so and check this out. Will it allow you to create alarm? Okay, understand? But will I be able to do it as a capital 2 user? No. So, well, anyway, back to the IAM. And take some other user, capital 2 user, and for this user, add permissions, attach policies. So let's make this user as EC2 read-only access, right? So EC2 read-only access, and also S3 full access. Okay, so you can go with EC2 full access. Sorry, yeah, EC2 read-only access, S3 full access. So what do you mean by read-only?
You can see the
Yes, just for only see the instances and their statuses. But whereas S3 full access means I can create them, I can delete them, I can modify their permissions, right? So that's all what is full access means. Now, so try for which user I have modified? Capital 2. Oh, 1 second. I should have done for capital 3 actually. 1 second. Just remove them. Okay. Now this is another example. So we have two permissions, right? What are they? EC2 full access, EC2 read-only. So which one will be applied?
EC2 full access.
Full access. What?
By default, read also there is a
Yeah. So when you say full access means read is also included in it, or you can say read. I mean EC2 full access has the highest priority, right? It has the highest priority. Since that is a full access, it has a good priority compared with read-only access. So high priority permissions will be applied or overwritten over the low priority permissions, right? Anyway, so remove that. So we apply these permissions to the some other user. So back to the users, capital 3, so add permissions, attach existing policies. Let's say EC2, full access, sorry, not full access, read-only access. Also, S3 also has read access and then full access. Okay, go with full access. So try with that user. There is capital 3 user, right? Let's sign out. So they should have given this access actually. So now what I'm doing every time, I'm signing out and then signing in, right? So there itself, it has to, if I'm using like about 2 to 3 users, so it has to show all the users, list of users that we have in Azure, not in AWS. Easiest way you can switch the users. That's very easy. So that's the reason AWS has been changing a lot. So they're trying to copy that AWS view, sorry, Azure view. Capital 3 and that user password. And then, so try with EC2 first. So I have instances. So I want to stop this instance. So what is that? Instance status. And then stop. So there is a permission in that. You're not authorized. The same thing you can do for, you can try for volume. Even if you create a volume, remove a volume, the same issue. So try with S3. Then, so now you can create a bucket, even you can also delete a bucket. So you can just select it, then delete it. So this bucket is not empty, that's okay. So empty the bucket. Okay, so this is something under permissions actually. So if the bucket has, so whenever you create a bucket, in that bucket you have some permissions. The permission is, so whenever you want to delete a bucket, so you have option called don't delete the bucket. So there's an option. But if you want to delete the bucket, go to the permissions and then, so check the permission, the bucket can be deleted, then the bucket can be deleted. Okay. Anyway, so you just go to the let's leave that one. But I can delete it. But if you want to do that, so in that bucket policies, so there's an option called delete bucket. That has to be done anyway. So now I can see the buckets. I can create them. Now back to that previous user. What was user? Capital 2 user. That user was able to create alarms. But how about notifications? No, right? But while I'm creating an alarm, I want to even send some notifications. So will I be able to, was I, when I was creating that, so was it allowing me to do it? Select SNS. So the reason was SNS topic or SNS service access was not given to the user. Okay. So log in with capital 2. C2. instances. Just go with some instance. Create alarm. SNS, right? Alarm notification. So was not there. But if user wants to also send some notifications, so for that user, let's give SNS capital 2 and then add permissions. So what was that? SNS. Now you have SNS full access or read only access. What access? Shall we go with read only? Will it work for us?
No.
Why no? Only I'm selecting, right? Let's see. That should work. So I'm not doing any modifications to the alarms. The only thing is I want that list to be displayed. Okay. So refresh. Which one? SNS. I can select the notifications. That is only purpose. I don't want this user to create alarms. If you want the user to create the alarm, notifications, I'm sorry. If you want the user to create the notifications, user has to be given as full access. Okay. Now, you can do that. You can create alarms. So let me just go through another permission, attach existing policy. And there is something called EC2 actions. CloudWatch actions on EC2. Can someone tell me what is that? What actions? What are they?
Actions on instance.
Actions on instances. This is the one, right? But did I assign that permission?
No.
No, right? But still, the user has those actions. Why? That is the advantage of EC2 full access. So this EC2 CloudWatch actions on EC2, what was the policy name again? CloudWatch actions on EC2. This is also included in EC2 full access. Okay. So in the past, even though user has EC2 full access in the past, okay, we should assign this permission as well. But now that is already included. Now, but this permission is useful now if the user has EC2 read only, but I want the user to create the alarms, also take some actions. In that case, we assign this policy. Okay. Right. So this is what exactly the policies are. We are seeing some examples regarding the policies, but let's try with a policy. Inline policy. Now, so this is what is that? Something related to this. I want the user can do all actions on my EC2 instance except delete volumes. He can stop instances, he can create instances, he can do anything. He can create volumes, but I don't want that user to delete volumes. That is just an example. But that permission is not available under these permissions are policies. And how it can be done?
Create a policy.
So we add an inline policy. Okay, let's add inline policy. Now, you're creating a policy on what service? Select the service. Okay, select the service. So what is the service name? We're creating on EC2. Let's go with EC2. select EC2, and then so what access now? Go with right access. So why right access? Sorry, uncheck it. I'm sorry. Click on that arrow, uncheck it. It's loading. Why right access? What do you see on the right axis? See, we are talking about delete permissions, right? That means modify. So since we are talking about delete permissions, so that can be available under right axis. Okay. Now, so go with, let's say, volume. Okay. Volume. So delete volume, right? I don't check that. If you don't check that, user won't be able to delete volumes. But how about the rest of them? Let's see. Create volume. So allow the user to create volumes. Okay. And then attach volume. Let them attach volumes. And then you can go with other actions related to volumes. So but delete volume, I'm not checking it. And then detach. So whatever you like to go with, you can detach it, you can delete it. Anyway. So I have selected permissions related to volumes, create, and also attach, detach. But delete is not checked. Okay, fine. So, and then, so go with resources. Go with all resources, or you can go with the default one. Just review the policy. So we have the policy contains an error. What was that error? Where is that error? Specifications. All resources. So these are the policies I have attached. You see that? And resources. So for what ARM resources, these policies you want to apply. So go with all resources. Now create. And what is the name of it? So the name is, let's say, no volume delete. That's my policy name, no volume delete. And so this is on EC2. So what was that? No volume delete. Okay. Now, so you can also just select it. Select it. This is taking time. I mean, what I'm saying is this can be modified even after created. So why this is not exported? Now you want to edit the policy even after it is created. Edit the policy. Now you can go with the actions, the actions. These are 3 actions. You can modify them. So or else you can look at the JSON script. So this is your JSON script. These are the actions. Right. Now, so the policy is attached. No volume delete. So for what user? Who was the user? Capital 2, right? Now I am a capital 2 user. Now go to EC2. Yes, that's correct. So volume. So will I be able to create a volume? Yes. And then so availability zone and the name. Let's say new volume. Sorry, let's say value. Sorry. So name is equals to new volume. Say new volume. Create a volume. That's a volume. I'm able to create a volume, but so can I delete that? Can I delete it? Yes. Why?
Full access permission.
Yes. So something is overwriting. So what was that? EC2 full access. So that is what I said. High priority permissions always overrides a low priority permissions. EC2 full access is like everything. So I don't want that permission to be assigned. But if the user has not EC2 access, he won't be able to access any EC2 services. For that, I'm going with adding an policy. What policy? Read only. Yes. So go with EC2, read only. Next, add permission. So back to the capital user, but wait for 2 seconds. So the permissions won't be applied immediately. So we just wait for 2 seconds at least. Sometimes they are applied, sometimes they won't be applied. Okay, let's try that now. Create volumes. So we'll take some time. So go with, and then the name is equals to, let's say, volume 1. Create a volume. That's a volume. So we try to delete that. So I cannot delete a volume, right? So you can see the reason. You are not authorized. So I was able to create a volume, but not able to delete volumes. Okay. So then, but I want that user to create instances. See, will I be able to create instances now? No. Why? Read only. But I want that user also to create instances. What do you do?
Change the permission, right? Permission of
Sorry?
the chain of permission.
Change the permissions. So yes. Now, so what you can do? So we have created inline policy, right? So in that inline policy itself, you can add more permissions to it. So just modify that edit policy.
So I believe we didn't give right policy, but we created one.
Yes. Created volume comes in the right. Modify volume, right? Now. So you just here in this section. So what you can do, you can also go with on the right. So try to go with, let's say, so try that. So you have something here. So instance creation something. Just you try that, okay? You can just create instances. Policy will be somewhere here. So you just try that. Okay, might be somewhere here. We have 32 actually with the same name 34, but you just try that from your side. So I have created a permission inline policy, which is like, so delete, no delete volume. But I want users has to be like this. User will be able to do everything except delete images or delete snapshots. So I want user will be able to create instances, delete instances, stop and stop the instances, but not able to delete volumes. Okay. So you just try those kind of inline policies, or else you can check this document, scenarios document. So try these inline policies. Okay, so try these ones. EC2 minus no volume delete, no create volume, and modify volume. EC2 snapshot minus snap. These are all minus. Minus means no. And then also try with S3. S3. So bucket deletion. Okay, no bucket deletion. And also S3, no permissions changed. So what is no permission changed? Like, so we have seen the permissions concept, right? So I don't want the users to change the permissions. Okay. But so try that. Back to back to the roles. So this is a question actually. Can we attach policies to the roles? So difference between policy versus role. What's the difference?
Based on services.
What's only
Policies are attached to the users. So far we have been attaching those policies to the users, but now we're going to create some roles. But what exactly a role is? Role is attached to the entity. But what that role contains? Create a role. So role is create. Now we're creating a role. So what role you are creating? I'm creating a role on EC2, and then next. So what are they again? Nothing but permissions. So role is also set of permissions, but the role is attached to the entity, not to the users. Am I clear? So in the previous step, I've selected my entity, right? So select the type of entity. So what entity? EC2. So why EC2? So that was a scenario. So I have an EC2 entity, EC2 instance. That entity wants to read some data from S3 or wants to pull some data from RDS. So what is your source resources? My source resource is EC2. Then your target resource is any like RDS or S3. Now, so select that resource first. What is the source resource? EC2. Then role is also nothing but set of permissions. Policy is also set of permissions. Role is also set of permissions. But policies are assigned to the users. Roles are assigned to the entities. That's the difference. Okay. Now, so what is my entity is? So EC2 instance wants to read the data of S3 bucket. So in the first step, I have selected my source resource. What was that? EC2. In the second case, now I'm selecting my destination, target. So that EC2 instance wants to read the data of S3 bucket. Provide that S3 read only. Next. And in this, can I see my inline policy which I have created? Can you see that? What was the name? No volume delete, right? It's not there, right? But so these are all permissions which are solid selected. Which one?
user can delete
Yeah, of course. Entities, that's the reason. See, but you can still create policies, right? It's still policies. Policies, we can create inline policies, but inline policies, you see, 1 second, let me just back to that policy. So where is that users? So how did we create those policies? So we are under users first. Once we are under users, there we are creating inline policies. So these are for users only, right? But now back to the roles. So create. So where is it? Create a role. Next. And then what was that? S3 read only. Selected. Next. So give a name. Name is equals to S3 to So EC2 to S3 read only, let's say. Next. So again, same name, EC2 to S3 read only. So where was that? EC2 to S3 read only. So what is the service? It's on EC2. That's an entity, right? That's an entity. Now let's apply this. How do you apply this? So on what entity that was created for? EC2. So you go to EC2. So go to EC2 instance, select an instance, and that instance, select it, and you have option here, instance actions. Is it under security? Modify IAM. So what was the role? The role was EC2 to S3. Okay. Now I can see the role. Since that role is created for EC2, I can see the role. If the role was created for some other entity, the role won't be appearing in EC2. Okay. So, and another question. So whenever we want to add some new roles or modify the roles, so do we need to stop the instance? So what is the instance status? Running. So while the instance is being running, can we attach new roles? It is attached. You don't need to change the status. Okay. These are some of the questions. Okay. These are kind of, so we don't observe these things closely, right? We just go to them and then apply. I mean, just apply the roles, but we don't apply. You see them closely. Even the same question I have given already at the time of volumes, EVS. So whenever we attach some new volumes, detach a volume. So do I need to stop the instance? So if the volume was primary, stop the instances. Otherwise, you don't need to stop the instance. Okay. If that is a root volume or primary volume, you stop them. Why we stop it? Yes, that has your AMI running. Since it has AMI running, to stop the instance. But in IAM, you don't need to stop the instance. This is a role. Okay. But back to this. Let's create another role. So let's go with EC2 again. Now this time RDS database. So I go with, let's say, do we have anything, something called write access? Let me check it out. So they have full access, they have read access. Apart from this, I'm just looking for RDS. So we should go with full access. Yeah, I think we should go with full access. So why full access? So what is that? Where is it? So this is read only, isn't it? Go with read on, full access. So why full access then? Oh, well, not full access. Yeah, there is a permission, which is called data full access. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. So data full access. So RDS is a database, right? It's a database. Now into the database, I want to insert some data. You can go with data full access. So if you go with read only, we can just read the data from the database. But if you go with RDS data full access means you can also insert some data into the database. So in what cases we go with RDS full access then?
what about RDS insert or
I would assign these permissions to the user, IAM user. Why? So that IAM users will be able to create databases as well. Okay, but here the database is already created, and then into the database developers can insert some data or read the data. So both things are possible. Well, so go with that next, and then give a name. So just go with next EC2 to RDS data full access. So back to EC2 again. Since the source was on EC2, so you just go to EC2 and then assign the role. Let's take an instance, then actions. So security, and then modify, and the role EC2 to RDS full access. Right, just save it. Okay. So, and then the data access will happen now.
So we are giving access to a specific instance.
Yes, only for instances. That's entity. It's not a service, right? It's not a service. It's an entity. Entity means an object in the service, right? So roles are for entities. That means objects in the service, not for the service. Okay. Even though while I was creating that role, I've selected a service. That's correct. But so the role is assigned to the entity. Remember that. So role is not assigned to the services, assigned to the entities. That means the resources in the service, not as a service. Okay. Sorry. Users for users on policies are for users only, so not for the entities. Okay. So well, these roles and we'll be creating even for other services in the future. Like you see in the roles, back to the roles, you see that there are some roles are created, Elastic Beanstalk. So did I create them actually? No. The role was created by Elastic Beanstalk is because that Elastic Beanstalk was in need of some other type of service. Just can I move this? I want to move this, or else Okay, Elastic Beanstalk service role. Okay, so whenever you go with some services, you can also see them pipelines. So these kind of services like pipeline services, Beanstalk services, they need some cross-entity access. In that case, automatically they create the roles, or else you can define all the roles first. You can assign those roles to the particular entity whenever that is used, or else they create them. So that Elastic Beanstalk was created. So Beanstalk was created. Where is it? That was today, I think last week. When he created something, I don't remember. Probably 7 days ago. Yes, this was the one for CloudWatch that was created last week. So that is created automatically in the background. But so these are the purpose of the roles. We create them even in the future. Now you just try these ones and create some roles as well. Something like this. Okay. Instead of going with RDS full access, you can try with RDS data full access. Let's try that. Going with RDS full access. So try with RDS. Okay, try that. RDS data full access. Okay, and create some users with these permissions, RDS, EC2, and then S3. Anyway, we talk about this RDS in detail in the next session. So now try this for today. Now questions again. So hardly 2 questions or 3 questions. That's really rare cases. The first question is policy versus role. That's the first question. And the difference between inline policy versus a policy. What is inline policy? And then the other question I've given already. So whenever you want to assign, you want to change a role to an entity, especially like EC2, do I need to stop these status of the instance? Hardly these are the 2 to 3 questions. So yeah, see, also in interviews, if they ask you, do you have experience working with IAM? So don't just say yes, not only for IAM, for any type of questions. If they ask you, do you have experience working with VPCs or working with EC2? Yes. So say yes, of course, but elaborate that. So what you have been doing, what you have done. So yes, I have very good practical knowledge working with IAM services. So I used to create some users and also create some policies and then also inline policies, attach these policies to the users, also creating roles, assign them to the users based upon the particular service, based upon the particular entity. Yeah, that's it. You don't need to go with explain them in detail. Just give some explanation. So that is what is expected in interviews. If someone is going to ask you a question on that, elaborate. So don't just say yes. Just explain it to the interviewer. So what you have done. That is what is expected actually. So that is what makes you a difference between a non-practical guy and a practical guy. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So thanks for your time. I'll see you back tomorrow as usual. Okay. Thank you.
Sir,